Welcome to TV47 Weekend Edition. It's my hope that you have had a beautiful Saturday, in as much as the country is mourning, the country is shocked, the country is worried about the cases of insecurity that are in the rise, and of course questioning the government as to what they are doing to make sure that they address these concerns, of course in relation to what has played out in Mukuru Quarry. And of course we continue to speak about these matters, and basically a special edition of Her Say Tonight, where we'll as well be focusing on that, taking it up from what it is that the president has said. Of course, we've also tried to get a hold of the deputy government spokesperson, that is Mwanaisha Chizuga, but of course not just yet. We certainly hope that by the end of the bulletin we get to hear what she has to say in relation to that. Before we get to that very important conversation, even as you tell us what you make of it, as the lines are open to 2047 as the SMS shortcode, the hashtag #HerSay. Allow us to take a look at what is in the world of news. Let's take a look at the highlights. Police once again face the anger of Kenyans who allege a cover-up in the Mukuru body retrieval exercise.
Vijana wetu wanauawa, wanakuja kutupwa hapo ndani. Kwa hivyo serikali mfanye uchunguzi, mtupatie ukweli. Kama si hivyo, vijana turudi nyuma.
5 more bodies retrieved today as the president calls for a probe.
Amurisha polisi na wale wote wanaohusika, DCI na wale wote wengine ambao wanahusika kwa mambo ya homicide na mambo ya kuchunguza vile haya mambo yametokea.
And Azimio leader Raila Odinga clarifies that the planned dialogue is not with the president but all stakeholders.
Sisi tumesema hili kongamano tunataka ni kongamano ya Wakenya, ile ambayo inaitwa dialogue ya Wakenya, kupitisha resolution ya kwamba tunataka hii na hii na hii ifanyike.
This amid pressure from his MPs. Roll set tonight. President William Ruto explains why he had to let his first cabinet go.
Tutaanzisha serikali ingine ambayo itatupeleka mbele.
As the DP now calls for a more competent cabinet.
Tunaunga wewe mkono 100% kwa ile hatua umechukua ya kuvuja baraza la mawaziri, uunde upya, utafute mawaziri ambaye watakusaidia kufanya kazi. Mawaziri ambaye hawana kiburi.
My name is Linda Alela. Our sign language interpreter is Catherine Simaloi, and the broadcast begins right away, where tonight the country continues to reel. That is from the shocking discovery of human remains that were dumped in a quarry at Mukuru Kwanjenga slums here in Nairobi. The number of retrieved bodies has now risen to 13, even as there is a mystery on the whereabouts of 2 bodies which were retrieved Friday but did not make it to the city mortuary. Ruga Ival kicks off our bulletin with that story.
Expression of pain, anger and confusion. This as the body retrieval exercise in the pipeline quarry in Mukuru Kwanjenga entered day 2. The day started with chaos after area residents wanted to deny access to local area police to the dump site, citing laxity. Police using tear gas to disperse the crowds.
Na Kenya iko mapolisi wa kware wote wako na vitambi. Kazi ni kwenda kwa changa kuchukua 50. Hawashughuliki na hapa. Hawezi kuja hapa. Kwani polisi wawili wazichunga hapa. Vijana wengi wanajua hapa kwa sababu ya depression. So angekuwa hapo angeokoa. Sasa hii milizi zilipatikana hapa aje. Wazi tuambie niliweza kumwaga takataka. Vijana wetu uchema kwa hizo lori. Hatujaiziona. Hao ndio walizileta na wanajua. Sasa cha kufanya waende wote, si atu wa transfer wafutwe.
It took the intervention of human rights activists to calm the residents and allow officers led by DCI Forensic Homicide Department before the exercise could begin. This marks the beginning of the harrowing experience yet again, where residents, authorities and even the police witnessed the retrieval of the first, the second, the third, the fourth and the fifth package of what could be seen as the bearing decomposing human remains. What stood out was the evident contamination of the crime scene by the rowdy onlookers who took down police cordon tape. This led to more chaos breaking out, with the residents asking the officers to open the sacks so that they could verify the contents when they resisted. Police were pelted with stones after the residents accused them of orchestrating a cover-up.
Hapa ndani tunataka ikaguliwe vya kutosha. Tunajua kuna mili mingi ambazo ziko hapo ndani. Ni more than 10 kwa sababu hii shimo ni kubwa. Na lazima serikali ichukue jukumu. Lazima kuangalia ni nini ilifanyika hapa ndani, na wachukue jukumu waangalie ni nani walifanya hao maovu.
This stemmed from the discrepancy in the number of bodies pulled out of the quarry on Friday. The whereabouts of 2 bodies still uncertain.
Yesterday, the number of bodies that were retrieved were 8. And we do know for sure that 6 bodies are at City Mortuary. That has been confirmed. Now, 2 bodies that were collected, and from here, we are still trying to find out where they are placed at the moment.
Human rights organizations confirming the discovery of the 5 bodies today insisted that justice must prevail, with further investigations needed to identify the bodies.
We urge the government to allow for and to initiate comprehensive investigations that are swift into these killings. It is crucial to determine the circumstances surrounding the deaths and hold those that are responsible accountable. Because the bodies are dismembered, we are concerned that they may be commingled, and therefore this will require careful sorting and reassociation according to forensic medical best practice.
Later, groups of youths were seen escorting the bodies to the City Mortuary. As this second retrieval day comes to a closure, Mukuru kwa Jenga residents just asked for this one thing.
Bwana Ruto hivi, Tuesday ajitayarishe na jeshi yake. Kwa maana tutaandamana kwa ajili ya vitu kama hizi. Hatuwezi kuwa watu wanauliwa namna hii, hata sisi tunahofia maisha yetu katika nchi yetu ya Kenya.
Ruga Evil, TV47.
Still on that, the quest for solving the puzzle for the 13 bodies that were retrieved at Mukuru kwa Jenga area so far has begun in earnest, with calls from all quarters for immediate and speedy investigations. President William Ruto has called for quick action on a day when residents expressed anger against the government, as Sheila Chelangat reports.
The puzzle of the 13 bodies retrieved at the quarry area in Mukuru kwa Jenga slums in Nairobi so far is proving to be a challenging one, even as investigations are set to commence. It is alleged that these bodies packed in these bags and tied with ropes were tortured before being mutilated, while still there is a likely chance that the 13 could have undergone similar torture before their death. Here at the City Mortuary, 6 bodies were brought in on Friday and 5 more today. In an unlikely turn of events, no one came out yet to claim them, save for the Kenya Red Cross and other human rights bodies who are prepared to give psychosocial support to anyone who could have shown up to claim the bodies. And as the police work to piece together the final moments before they met their deaths, those familiar with the probe profile say police could be exploring a possibility that the bodies could be either from an organ harvesting syndicate or a cult.
The homicide has told the City Mortuary to stop tampering with the sacks of the bodies that were found until on Monday.
This has irked many.
Wakati watu washaekwa kwa gunia, ndio kome una resign after watu wako kwa gunia. Seriously, unarudi kwa kazi mpaka wakufufuke, unarudi kwa kazi.
And President William Ruto has called for speedy investigations.
Nimeamurisha polisi na wale wote wanaohusika, DCI na wale wote wengine ambao wanahusika kwa mambo ya homicide na mambo ya kuchunguza vile haya mambo yametokea.
Human rights defending organizations have also come forth calling for immediate collection of the victims' fingerprints and post-mortem of the bodies be conducted together with independent observers. Several residents of the area marched the police cars carrying more bodies retrieved today. Their demands are that the bodies be taken out of those sacks and the investigation commenced immediately. Sheila Chelangat for TV47.
And now the Social Health Insurance Act that incorporated the Social Health Authority is facing some serious legal challenges following some sections that have been termed controversial. Well, however, the Ministry of Health has urged Kenyans to register for the new health scheme, which they say will help relieve Kenyans of the burden incurred on treatment, as Elizabeth Atieno tells us.
On Friday this week, the government, through the Ministry of Health, was dealt a blow after the High Court suspended the Social Health Insurance Act of 2023. And although the court later suspended its own ruling for 45 days, there are ongoing fears that the ongoing legal battle will have huge repercussions on the much-anticipated launch scheduled for the 1st of October 2024.
Na wewe kitu yenye itahitajika kwako ni kujitokeza tu kujisajilisha na bima ya SHA.
The three-judge bench led by Justices Alfred Mabea, Robert Limo and Freda Mugambi have called on the Office of the Attorney General through Emmanuel Bitter to appeal the decision and implement the initial ruling within 120 days.
We agree that there is reason for apprehension as expressed by the petition.
On the 27th of November 2023, the High Court suspended the implementation of the Social Health Insurance Act of 2023 following a petition filed by Joseph Enoch Aura. However, on the 19th of January 2024, the Court of Appeal lifted orders preventing the implementation of the Social Health Insurance Act of 2023, the Primary Healthcare Act of 2023, and the Digital Health Act of 2023 following an appeal by Health CS Susan Akumicha. The three-judge bench in the Court of Appeal, Judges Patrick Kiage, Pauline Nyamwea, and Ngenye Masharia, however, singled out 3 provisions of the Social Health Insurance Act which remained suspended pending the hearing and determination of the appeal. But on Friday, Justices Freda Mugambi, Alfred Mabea, Robert Limo, and Freda Mugambi clarified that the current suspension does not apply to Sections 26 subsection 5 and Section 27 subsection 4 of the Social Health Insurance Act. Even amidst the ongoing confusion surrounding the fate of the Social Health Authority, the Ministry of Health has amplified its call for Kenyans to register for the new health insurance scheme, which they say will help relieve the financial burden incurred during treatment. Elizabeth Atieno, TV47, Nairobi.
And also some bit of politics. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is at crossroads in the wake of President William Ruto's announcement this week to form a government of national unity. The Deputy President is on record opposing a handshake between President Ruto and Azimio leader Raila Odinga at the height of Azimio protests last year.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has been forced to eat humble pie after President William Ruto on Tuesday this week held a closed-door meeting with Azimio leader Raila Odinga, during which the president declared his resolve to form a government of national unity with Odinga, the youth, and other stakeholders.
I will immediately engage in extensive consultations across different sectors and political formations and other Kenyans, both in public and private, with the aim of setting up a broad-based government.
The announcement, a major setback for the Deputy President, who since the Azimio protests early last year, declared he will block any attempt by Odinga to gain access to State House and secure a handshake.
Mambo ati ataingia kwa serikali ya William Ruto kupitia mlango ya nyuma, hiyo haiwezekani. Mnataka ingie asiingie? We cannot. And you cannot intimidate the people of Kenya year after year. We cannot succumb to blackmail.
Soon after, Gachagua was forced to swallow his words after President Ruto agreed to bipartisan talks with Odinga through the National Dialogue Committee NADCO, which ushered in the handshake, giving birth to the NADCO report that will see a negotiated IEBC between Ruto and Odinga and possible cabinet positions in the wake of the dissolution.
Tafuta wale watu ambao wako honest, watu ambao wako transparent, watu ambao watakuwa objective katika leadership, Usiweke mtu ni waziri, anachukua vitu yote ya hiyo wizara, anapeleka kwake nyumbani na ingine anaiba. Angalie Kenya nzima. Hii Kenya ina sehemu nyingi, ina makabila mengi. Wakati unachagua watu katika serikali yako, angalia makabila yote ya Kenya.
Watu ya Mount Kenya waongee sauti moja.
Jittery on the chain of events since last year, the much anticipated reconstitution of Ruto's second cabinet has forced Gashagua's allies to caution the president that it will not be business as usual in Mount Kenya in crafting the new cabinet, insisting Gachagua must be consulted.
As he crafts his own new cabinet, number one, I humbly request him to bring in the deputy president and let them sit together and craft even a better cabinet, because the regions that voted overwhelmingly for him will be looking to see how he treats them this time round.
Signs that all was not well for Gachagua, the deputy president since then has been reduced to firefighting in his Mount Kenya backyard, where young MPs are challenging his leadership, while the president, on the other hand, was busy securing a handshake with Odinga in Uganda, where the president launched Odinga's bid for the African Union Commission chairmanship. Apul Kamau, TV47.
Thank you, Apollo, for that. Now, a few days after Ruto fired all his cabinet ministers, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition leader Raila Odinga is now pushing for a complete cleanup of every department in the government, including members of parliament, and call for a fresh election. This comes as Azimio leaders remained divided whether Raila should go for a dialogue with the president or not.
The politics of handshake and dialogue is now hitting fever pitch, few days after President Ruto fired his cabinet. Even as the head of state calls for dialogue come next week, Azimio la Umoja coalition leader Raila Odinga and his allies are now issuing a raft of fresh demands before the dialogue with President William Ruto and the Gen Z is to happen, which include a complete overhaul of government and parliament. Odinga, who joined mourners during the funeral of former Governor Wycliffe Oparanyas' brother in Mabole, Butere, Kakamega County, clarified that the dialogue he was calling for is not exclusively with the president, but with Gen Zs and other stakeholders.
Hili kongamano tunataka ni kongamano ya Wakenya, hili ambayo inaitwa dialogue ya Wakenya, kupitisha resolution ya kwamba tunataka hii na hii na hii ifanyike.
Raila's counterpart and Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka says it is dangerous for Raila to be part of a dialogue where he is accused by Gen Zs for working with the president in a government that is on fire.
What ndugu Raila you tried to achieve last year, hawa vijana wetu, and they are not children, don't call them children. These are youthful leaders. They have decided to do away with corruption in real time.
His ally and Kisii Governor Simba Arati advised Raila not to sanitize Ruto's government by accepting his handshake. Instead, the head of state should first deal with the matter at hand, including police who participated in killings are held accountable.
Baba, maongezi ambayo mtaweza kuwa nayo ni kwamba Mheshimiwa Ruto aachilie vijana wote ambao wako jera na wale wako na kesi kotini.
It should be remembered that President William Ruto has not yet changed his mind and that the dialogue is likely to happen come next week. However, there is discomfort from the Azimio side since the Gen Zs have already declined the invitation. Saboti MP Caleb Amisi has hinted on Gen Zs about the formation of the new cabinet in offing. Paul Kirobi, TV47.
Some on politics, and political analyst and internet personality Mutahi Ngunyi has now advised the president not to give in to the demands by Gen Zs. In a post on his social media platform, Mutahi says that more demands will be made and it will be a never-ending cycle. President William Ruto recently dissolved a cabinet after refusing to assent to the controversial Finance Bill 2024. The big question then is whether the president will continue to give in to these demands.
Tonight, opinion is divided on how the president should moving forward handle the young people, especially those from the younger generation who have continued to pile pressure on himself and his government over the last 3 weeks. Political analyst Mutahi Ngunyi is of the opinion that the president should desist from fulfilling more demands of the Gen Zs, Ngunyi, who posted on his X platform, urged the president to protect the country against the leaderless movement. But according to Joko Justice, who is an advocate of the High Court, the president should not only fulfill demands of the Gen Zs, but also expect more.
I think these are the bare minimum. They are simple asks that the common mwananchi is asking from the president.
This, Njogu says, is a way of cleaning up the country through the demands which, according to him, are legitimate.
Whether the president should continue taking these demands, he definitely should. And the reason is that these demands are the simplest of demands.
The 3-week pro-good governance protests that have ravaged the country were first focused on rejecting the finance bill.
Kama wanabunge, tunasema hii finance bill haijaangazia malilio ya Wakenya. We reject the finance bill in totality. Finance bill 2024 must be amended.
The demands were further fueled with wananchi demanding better governance and accountability from various leaders.
We are telling our MPs, can you make sure that you are serving what you are elected to do? We have analyzed and we have seen that majority of you have become presidential puppets.
However, still not unfazed by the cabinet being dissolved and resignation of the Inspector General, saying it is time for Kenya to be better.
By implementing these demands, we will get service delivery in the nation. We will ensure that there is no more embezzlement of funds. We will ensure that we tackle the issue of corruption.
It will be an interesting week ahead as the president is expected to have dialogue with the young people and other stakeholders. Vera Alberta, 247, Nairobi.
Now, the Kenya National Private Security Union, KNPSW, wants the government, through the Ministry of Labour, to compel the Private Security Regulatory Authority to immediately implement the new reforms which were gazetted last year. The union laments that despite gazettement of the new reforms on the sector, nothing has been done or implemented just yet. Private security workers have demanded that unless the government moves with speed to address their concerns, they will have no choice but to call for a nationwide strike.
Tuliahidiwa na bodi ya PSR kuongeza mapato ya mfanyikazi kwa kiwango cha 30,000. But since then, tunapata habari kwamba Bwana Fazul hajatekeleza na bodi nzima haijatekeleza hiyo matakwa ya kuongeza mfanyikazi mapato yake ya shilingi 30,000. Kwa hivyo tunasukuma na tunasisitiza sio kubembeleza, wala tunasema kwamba hiyo bodi lazima ihakikishe salary increment ya bawabu imepanda kwa 1000 ngapi?
Nimeandika barua karibu 15 kwa Ministry of Labor. Nimeandika barua 10 kwa Ministry of Interior. Nimeandika barua kadhaa kwa PISRA nikisema ya kwamba shida ya bawabu iko hapa. And we are willing to sit down to fix this problem with the government. Ukiongea na kiongozi CS ama uongeze na CS wa Interior, umwandikie barua karibu 10, he doesn't respond. What do you do?
Watu waheshimu mabawabu, watu waheshimu kazi yetu ambayo tunafanya, because sisi ndio first respondent. Sisi ndio tunaona mwizi, ndio tunaita polisi. Yes. Lakini polisi hawatuchukui kama watu wa maana kwa sababu hatuna umoja.
All right, as businesses assess the damages and losses that were made when protests turned to riots, the Kenya Private Sector Alliance now projects that more than the 2.4 billion projected by the president was lost per day during the peak of the unrest. And while large corporations are tying loose ends to swing back into business, MSME owners like Mary Njeri, who lost even her wheelchair, have to start from scratch. Just what was the extent of the losses and what lives have been impacted by the protests that turned violent for business? Well, our reporter Hibak Said assesses just what collateral damage happened after the storm.
While many mill about the central business district going on about their daily affairs, a few amble trying to figure out where to start from now that their business is no more. In what turned into utter chaos and violence after peaceful protests lies the remnants of businesses trying to land back on their feet and the wariness of possible clashes between police and protesters that would force them back to square one.
Na sasa sisi wote tumetoka mbali, tumekuja kutafuta. Sasa mtu akitoka hii town ama na kilema, bila watoto wetu wanateseka, sisi wazazi tunateseka. Wengine tumewachiwa wajukuu, kama mimi wa mtoto wangu alienda akaniachia wajukuu. Sasa unaona watu wengi wanateseka sana.
Here, outside a popular supermarket, were traders who took advantage of the foot traffic from the outlet to sell wares and who turned to unfortunate collateral victims of the looting witnessed at the mart.
Nilipoteza mali yangu ya dhamani karibu 20,000 pamoja na wheelchair yangu ambayo inanisaidia katika mobility yangu hapa jijini Nairobi. Nilipoteza kila kitu.
Here is where Mary Njeri, a person living with a disability, has been selling wares for years and where she lost not only her stock of goods but also her wheelchair. While recounting the harrowing events, she reveals the current stock she has selling came from well-wishers and her fate, even to her, is now unknown.
Sasa madhumuni yangu kama vile nilikuwa na matarajio vile nitakuwa nikienda mbele, nitakuwa by this year nimeenda a step ahead. Sasa bala a step ahead naenda step backwards.
But even so, Mary says she will not move and ardently now wishes for peace and order and for the relevant authorities to do as they promised, to provide service to all, to protect and to preserve.
Na Wakenya wengi wameadhirika. Sisi yenye tunaomba tu amani ikue. Tunaomba rais wetu akumbuke watu wale wanyonge kama sisi.
A few centimeters away is Mama Grace, who lost all her goods, amounting to 150,000 shillings during the height of the riots, and who has since been on the edge when operating from the CBD, ready to take cover at the slightest ruckus.
Hatujaona mtu yoyote mwenye wakuja kutusaidia ama kutuuliza chochote. Tunakaa tu, tunauza tu hizi vitu na tunaona sasa hivi wateja sasa vile duka haifanyi kazi, hatuna chochote. Kuanzia asubuhi sijauza chochote. Lakini nimeona tu nikuje, nisipoteze uwanja, labda supermarket Mungu anaweza jalia wapate pesa wafungue na maisha iendelee.
Just a tiny flicker could trigger an inferno. And trigger it did, as the resounding sentiments from traders remains that things can never be the same unless drastic changes are made from the highest office.
Hapa biashara kurudi mali ilipokuwa ngumu. Biashara kurudi ilipokuwa ngumu, manake watu wengi wamekosa kazi, wengine watarudi makwao, wengine watatoka hii mji ende mji mwingine. Unaona? Mala papa sasa tulipo sasa hii biashara kurudi vilivyokuwa ni ngumu.
According to the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, the losses projected by the head of state of 2.4 billion shillings incurred on a daily from protests turned violent could be less than the situation on the ground.
From KEPSA's view, what are the losses, approximated at? How much are private businesses losing out on?
I think the losses could be more than that. The losses could be more than that. I'm looking at what's our GDP per day, what is our GDP per year, and a day of no work. What does it mean?
Victor Ogalo, the deputy CEO of KEPSA, says the alliance is still gathering data on the exact figure from their members. However, considering 75% of businesses in the country operate physically, the losses could be much, much higher.
It means that any day of protests is leading us to a loss of more than even 2.4.
And as business continues as quote-unquote usual in the CBD, many voices have been subdued into whispers on what to do next, lest they attract the attention of goons who could potentially target their business next. Or worse, be termed as saboteurs of the cause. And while various representative bodies and even associations representing the business community are approximating the losses to billions of shillings per day, a lot of people forget the micro, small and medium enterprises that usually operate around big businesses are bearing the brunt of the violence. Hibak Said for TV47 in Nairobi.
All right, and to sports, Albert Odero scored 24 points to help Nairobi City Thunder thrash Kenya Ports Authority 73-70 in Game 1 of the Men's Kenya Basketball Premier League. The finals played at the KPA Welfare Center in Makande, Mombasa County. KPA started the game on a high note, scoring 46 points by the end of the first half, while Thunder managed 29 points. Game 2 will be played tomorrow at the same venue from 4 p.m.
Can we just go back home, take rest, watch film, and come back better prepared tomorrow? We don't want to be down 19 at one point again tomorrow. So tomorrow from the get-go, we just want to go.
I love how we played, especially in the first half today. I mean, obviously we dug ourselves a big hole. We needed to make some adjustments in the second half to make that comeback. But credit to our guys, they did what needed to be done.
There are some things we didn't do well, especially in the third quarter. We knew they were able to shoot the ball and rebound. So we let a lot of open looks. And for some reason or another, our energy level went down in the third quarter.
All right, that's the match we had for you. That is in relation to news. We want to cross over to the discussion, and we say today's edition of Her Say is special. We engage Roslyn Asena. Roslyn Asena is a community paralegal based in Embakasi South Sub-County, Mukuru, Kwaruben. Remember, the focus is largely on the shocking incident of more than 10 bodies, mutated bodies for that matter, being discovered in a quarry that is in Mukuru. And even worse is that we have high cases of women, according to the reports that we have received so far. What could this mean for the country? We want to get to that conversation, so don't you go anywhere. As well, the lines are open for you to speak with us. As always, the hashtag is Her Say. I'll be looking at some of your comments as we continue with that. We release our sign language interpreter, Catherine Simaloi, as we cross over to the other side of the studio for that conversation.
Kila kiongozi ana hadithi yake ya kipekee.
Wazazi wangu walikuwa bit strict kwa sababu mamangu mwenyewe, mimi kutoka kuzaliwa sijailala nje.
The white small one, huyo ana sniff gunpowder na risasi na bomb. Alafu huyo mwingine ni Ridgeback ana sniff simba.
Even the employees knows that, so when in the boardroom is the chairman, the CEO and the rest of.
At what point are you a wife?
The minute you get to that inside that door, you become now the wife.
Na kila maamuzi wanayoyafanya hufichua mengi kuhusu utu wao na uongozi wao.
We see God blessing us, and we now realize the power of giving also has to be rewarded back.
Kupitia kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi, tunakuletea mahojiano ya kusisimua na uchambuzi wa kina kuhusu viongozi wetu.
Pick your core business as the bigger stones. Put them in your diary first. Give priority the bigger things.
Usikose kila Alhamis saa 1:30 jioni.
In a world where challenges are as common as opportunities, there are those who dare to defy the odds. They are the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship isn't just about starting a business, it's about embracing uncertainty, pushing boundaries and turning dreams into reality.
Hata ambao ni pesa ya kusave, wallahi.
ambao mwaka ni pesa nyingi sana.
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
The way we run the business is in a very unforgiving way, where every team member has to bring out their best.
So, to all the dreamers, innovators, and risk takers out there, remember, being an entrepreneur isn't just a job, it's a way of life. Join the journey. Become an entrepreneur. The Grind, Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Here on Beyond the Limit, we celebrate the extraordinary achievements of individuals who redefine possibilities. In a journey of resilience and determination, these individuals demonstrate that limitations are merely stepping stones to greatness.
I'm Nancy Njoroge, a mother of 3. I have 2 girls and a boy who is Clinton and who is autistic.
When my heart got healed, I decided to come out to be creating CP awareness, to let other people know that there is such a condition, and people that has it is not that they are witches.
Together, let's go beyond the limit every Saturday at 8 p.m.
Welcome to The Realtor, where we take you on an exciting journey from bare land to dream home. Step 1. Finding the perfect plot. We explore location, size, and potential. Next, construction begins. Witness the foundation being laid, walls rising, and rooms taking shape. Step 3. Electricity matters. We delve into wiring, switches, and smart home tech. Step 4. From paint choices to fixtures, it's all about aesthetics. Step 5. It's time to get the right furniture. Finally, the big day. Time to move in and create memories. Join us on the journey to making homes a reality on The Realtor, Tuesdays, 6:30.
Kila kiongozi ana hadithi yake ya kipekee.
Wazazi wangu walikuwa bit strict kwa sababu mamangu mwenyewe, mimi kutoka kuzaliwa sijailala nje.
The white small one, huyo ana sniff gunpowder na risasi na bomb. Alafu huyo mwingine ni ridgeback, ana sniff simba.
Even the employees know that. So when in the boardroom is a chairman.
All right, welcome back to the broadcast. Once again, Rosalina Sena, a community paralegal based in Embakasi South Sub-County. Mukuru Kwaruben is our guest tonight. Equally, we'll be getting a hold of Hussein Khalid, who's the CEO of Vocal Africa, so that as well he can weigh in on this matter. Efforts to get a hold of Deputy Government Spokesperson Mwanaisha Chizuga have not yielded any form of fruit, in as much as we had spoken to her earlier on and had confirmed that she would be speaking to us, weighing in to the matter in relation to this sad story that gets, of course, to bedevil us as a country, discovered yesterday and coming to today, the mutilated bodies of about more than 13 Kenyans discovered in Mukuru quarry. What's even worse is that, they say that a majority of these bodies are for women, and we ask ourselves just what is going on. Of course, we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty details of this, even as, of course, the president has declared that it will be important for, investigations to be conducted into the matter, and therefore, as a people, we can wait to see what the government establishes. But Asena, before you even tell us what the situation is like in Mukuru, do you have the confidence in the government when they say that this matter will be addressed, coming from the heinous occurrences that played out in Shakahola, coming from a scenario where we have witnessed lots of abductions and loss of lives that were occasioned by the anti-finance, protest or finance bill protest? Do you believe that the government is committed to address this as a Kenyan?
As a Kenyan, and live alone as a Kenyan. As a direct victim. My family is a victim in the Shakahola story. My brother and his wife are still in custody at Shimolatewa, while their 5 children have never been traced to date.
What do you mean when you say they are still in custody? Were they part
they were part of the congregants within the church. And they were rescued from the forest. And so they cannot account for their children. And that's the reason they are still at Shimolatewa prison. So as a victim who walks that path every other day, I think I cannot trust the government. It's not easy to trust the government. Remember, this government recycles wrongdoings. How does it recycle? Like in this one, you might wake up tomorrow and you will hear the OCS quarry has been transferred. Instead of going for compulsory leave for investigations to be done, so that we come to later on discover maybe he was not on the wrong side or he was on the right side. So you will just hear so and so has been transferred. Like the Shakahola issue, officers were transferred. Why do you transfer, especially in matters where lives have been lost? Not 1, not 2, not 3. Lives have been lost. Somebody was there either on an error of omission or commission. You just wake up tomorrow to reshuffle them. You are transferring that problem to another county. In peace building, we say it should never reoccur. It should never happen again. What are the measures that should be put in place to ensure that it doesn't happen again? By ensuring you take stern action against every other person who happens to have been in the leadership, and especially the state obligated leaders. Yes.
The Shakahola matter a little bit complex. Do you suppose it could have been handled different?
It could have been handled differently if prevention measures were put in place. There were no prevention measures. You remember the Mackenzie was being arrested and he was released. And you wonder which judge, this judge, where is this judge? Why was he not investigated in that matter to understand? Is it true that the matter did not have evidence? Why did we wait until lives, many lives, and especially of innocent children have been lost, then we come in to shout on the rooftop that you are now arresting Mackenzie and the congregants in that church, and no single officer has ever been taken to jail or been taken to court for that particular issue.
A huge gap on the question of security. I want to come back to you shortly. Allow us to introduce Hussein Khalid, who's the CEO of Vocal Africa, joining us virtually. Hussein, if you can hear me, good evening. It's a pleasure to have gotten a hold of you, but equally on, very unfortunate grounds. And we understand the work that you have been doing in the country. First of all, to appreciate what it is that then Vocal Africa is doing. But what was your first reaction, upon hearing this discovery of Mukuru? Can you hear me, Hussein?
Yes, I can.
Kindly
hear you.
Unmute. All right, now we can hear you. Did you get my question? Yeah.
Yes, I did. So I was saying we got this intel from one of our partners on the ground, Mukuru Justice Center. And of course, when we received this information, we were extremely shocked. This is a group that we've worked with for quite some time now, and we knew that information coming from them is reliable. So we told them to proceed as we made our way there. And when we arrived there, we were absolutely astonished by what we saw. Bodies in bags and, not just full bodies, some of them dismembered, some are, in terms of, just heads are missing. So it was really, really, really shocking. And, it's something that for anyone to be in such an area, to see what is happening and what the bodies that are being removed from the pit was extremely, a scene that will remain in the minds of many for many years.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are a bit curious as Kenyans because the numbers that are being reported here and there are not as clear. I don't know what you have witnessed yourself. What can you tell the people of Kenya, are the numbers that perhaps these bodies have been removed as you get to witness? Because then we hear of 13, we hear of 6, all of a sudden we hear of 8, before you know it somebody else is saying 9. And there's a lot of confusion. Even worse is that they say a majority of these bodies are, for women. I mean, is that true?
Yeah, the confusion comes when you count the bags. If you count the bags that are removed from the pit, then there are 13. Yesterday there were 8, and today there are 5.
Okay.
But in terms of the numbers, it's because in some of the bags you have half a body. In another bag, perhaps you find just the limbs. In another bag, perhaps you find the lower part of the body.
Okay.
So if you put that together, that then brings the numbers down from 13, which is the number of sacks that are removed from the pit. So that is what is bringing the confusion. But we have agreed that Monday begins the process of identifying who these people are, and hopefully also to undertake the autopsy to ascertain the cause of death. So from Monday, we should be able to confirm, maybe in one sack where you have, another part of the body, maybe the other sack contains another part of the body belonging to the same individual.
Okay.
So that is what is bringing the confusion.
Are there chances that there are more bodies down there that are supposed to be retrieved, or perhaps we say then it's a close for the exercise?
We've been working with the local divers since yesterday when we received this information, and we were amongst the first people at the scene. And we have also been following up because the areas that have been combed due to lack of equipment are only the areas next to the wall of the pit. So no one has checked the sacks that are further inwards in the pit. And from my discussion with the divers, the local boys who went down, they told me there most likely are more bodies, but due to lack of necessary equipment and lack of necessary personnel to actually move more inwards, then we can't really tell what is beyond the walls of the pit.
Quickly, before I engage Asena, tonight we're expecting to hear the view, or perhaps the voice of the government through the deputy spokesperson, that is Mwanaisha Chezuga. Unfortunately, of course, this was not fruitful. Would it be too early for the government to address this, in as much as we have seen the president as well saying that, of course, the process of investigation should be fast-tracked? I mean, do you suppose they owe us some more explanation, that is the people of Kenya?
Without a doubt, the right to security is a constitutional guarantee under Article 29 of the Constitution, and the government has a responsibility to ensure that the people are safe. When bodies are showing up in garbage pits in Mukuru and other places, then this is extremely, extremely saddening. And we must, and I repeat, we must get answers from the government. This pit is less than, I think it's 200 or 300 meters from a police station. How is it that, just within, a touching distance from the police station, bodies are being dumped in mutilated bodies, for that matter, are being dumped in the pit. And unfortunately, we've heard this song so many times, you know, that the government will do all it can, will bring the perpetrators to book. Unfortunately, there are so many incidences that have gone unaccounted for. If you look at River Tana, you look at River Yala, you look at Shakahola, and we still don't have, enough information to confirm who and exactly what happened. Well,
Beginning last year, that is 2023, January the 4th, I personally, amongst other journalists, had a sitting with the president. And the first question perhaps one of the questions was on the question of security. And this was in relation to the numerous cases of, bodies found in River Yala, numerous concerns about insecurity in the country. The president going ahead to confirm and affirm that this is not going to play out during his reign. I don't know whether we have that clip as a reminder. Yes, let's just have that clip of the president briefly, and then we come back to react to that, Asena. Why don't we have a commission that, of course, is a commission of inquiry that then would look into the extrajudicial killings, now that you mentioned the River Yala cases and as well the involvement of IPOA and IMLUs and all that?
I already had a thorough meeting with the IPOA, and we have agreed with them that it is not necessary for me to establish another task force when IPOA is there, and it is squarely within their mandate to tell us how did Kenyans end up being killed in this manner. And then it was business as usual. 30 bodies in Yala, there's 17 bodies in Garissa. I don't know how many bodies were. People, there was a container here at the Nairobi area. People were being slaughtered in a police station. How did we end up there? What kind of rogue, institution? And that is why I fired that Kinoti man, because, it's not right, good people.
Should there be responsibility more than just firing?
Of course, there will be responsibility.
Of course, recently, again, the president sitting with journalists on a round table as well addressed this matter. Do you suppose that the president was speaking from a point of, say, zero knowledge as to how some of these things play out, the magnitude that they can go to, the levels that they can go to, when he confidently said that this cannot play out during his reign, even going ahead to perhaps, question what it is that the other regime was doing in as much as he was part of that regime?
I think in this country, goal shifting is our biggest problem. You can see in his statement he's mentioning that it is the mandate of IPOA. If IPOA is doing nothing, the president can do something, can disband that body. There is no need for a body to be in the government using taxpayers' money for salaries if it's not working according to the president.
Well, all right, of course, we're going to get into the nitty-gritties of understanding the operations of IPOA and all these other entities. Yes, proceed.
So, according to what I'm seeing from his statement, it is goal shifting. And that is not the direction Kenyans want. And especially the bereaved families, especially people who are trying to unearth the truth about what exactly happened to their people. If within Mukuru, what I can mention as what we can say it's kind of a trend, or we can call it normal. Once in a while, maybe somebody was on a mission of suicide, and he fall in there, maybe he threw himself and fall in that quarry. When they float, you can really easily identify them. There are those who remove their clothes. There are those who go down with their clothes. But after 2 or 3 days, they come on top, and you can easily identify this is so and so. So families don't have to go an extra mile of wondering where did our person go. It is easier to put a close to the morning journey the moment maybe you bury your people. So in this one, or other times in families where they are prone to violence. Maybe you decide, hey, this person will kill me, let me run away. In the process, you accidentally fall in that particular pit. What happens? You will come up and float, and you will be easily identified. But this one, this issue, bodies being found in quarry. I've lived in Mukuru for more than 20 years. We've never had such. And to make it worse, women, bodies of women, even in movies.
But we have carried stories here, and speaking to the locals down there, a few of them have acknowledged that perhaps because of the cases of insecurity, this is not new. It's just that, of course, the numbers now are a bit extreme.
Yes, it is not. That's why I'm telling you, it is not new to hear that somebody was found dead in a quarry. But it is new to hear that many bodies wrapped in a sack, many of them have been. And you look at some bodies, you can see the difference. There are some with the green sacks. So you wonder, these green sacks, it's like, did they come maybe from a company somewhere? Is there a company somewhere in this country, within Nairobi, within industrial area? Is there something happening somewhere? Can people now come out? Can women come out and speak about this? Can they come and say, listen, there is this, there is this, there is, so that we can ensure that it doesn't happen again?
Okay.
Because you cannot say all of them came from one place. Those sacks are very different, and you can see the difference. And the way they have been tied, a person who is committing suicide cannot tie themselves the same way those bodies have been tied. You get? So there is something we need the truth, and it's the government. We pay taxes to the government to ensure that it gives us the truth of what happens, to ensure that it prevents, so that it doesn't happen again.
All right, I'll be coming back to you to get to understand what is the feel like on ground, the people of Mukuru, their feel about security and all that. But quickly, Hussein, back to you. First of all, your reaction to what it is that the president said, assuring Kenyans that this will not happen again. But this is probably a similar case as to what has played out in Yala. Well as just addressing the role of human rights, bodies, the role of IPOA, IMLU, Vocal Africa in aiding the government in addressing these matters, because clearly it goes beyond what it is that the government can do.
Thank you. First of all, let's just confirm that, we've heard the president saying a couple of times and in different venues that under his regime, that extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances has been a thing of the past. And the president is not being truthful when he says that. We've had extrajudicial killings, we've had enforced disappearances. Even before these protests, we've been dealing with a number of human rights violations. And as you've said, and as my colleague has also said, this is not something new. These promises have been made, in the past without coming to fruition. But you've asked a good question, and that is, what is the role of other entities in aiding the state in dealing with some of these human rights violations? And I think one of the major responsibilities that we have as human rights institutions is to bring to the fore, or to bring to public limelight some of these atrocities that have been committed. So when we receive this information, is to actually bring it to the attention of the public. Once we do that, then the next step is to ensure that proper evidence is collected, to ensure that we get the community to rally behind those investigating powers so that the work is done. So for instance, the divers who went down there today, they were facilitated by civil society organizations, Vocal Africa and others, because the government did not have the required resources to ensure that these divers, and of course their community members, that day would have been used to earn a living so that they can put bread at on the table at the end of the day. So it was more than justified to ensure that they get something little for their efforts, as we've seen what they've done. So once we do that, then the next step to assist in terms of investigations. And so we are talking to members of the public, we're asking them, anyone who has seen anything, who has heard anything, to come forward and give this information. We'll be doing the autopsies together. We will be there present to make sure that nothing is being hidden. So there are various roles, but again, all this that we're doing, we have to remember that there are state institutions that are mandated and funded by taxpayers' money to do this work, one of them being IPOA. And we need them to step up. We need them to step up, take responsibility, and deliver on their mandate.
All right. Well, here we are at, when you first saw these bodies, when you first saw these bodies in sacks, what would have been your first reaction in relation to the element of speculation? What do you think this could be? I mean, it's pretty much a complex factor, something very complex to comprehend. You can't even say it's, you don't even know what to label it. What was your reaction, especially understanding that we come from a very moment of unrest in the country as to the protests that were witnessed in the past 1 month?
Yeah, so my first reaction was that these are protest related, because the lady who was actually in search of her sister had informed Mukuru Justice Center that the lady went missing the day after Parliament was breached. And we know that there's been a lot of talk around that time. Githurai is not very far from there. So my first instinct, my instinct told me that probably this is protest related. But then when we started seeing the bodies, and when we uncovered, when we confirmed that all of them were actually female, that then got me thinking again. Because majority of those that are missing, if you look, out there, majority, almost 95% are male, And even when you look at people who've died and have been buried so far from the protests, almost 100% are male, So we don't have any linkages with women. But then that then came back to me, and we started thinking, what if women were actually also killed, and maybe they were picked up, but then they didn't know how to actually deal with women, and now we're seeing the repercussions from that. So it's still not very clear. The fact that these bodies have been mutilated, again, it's not something we have been seeing going around during these protests, So is it a new way of dealing with protesters, or is this a cult, or is this are these issues related to abortion clinics? I mean, so it's still speculation as of this time. But yes, the first time I saw this, for me, I thought, probably protest related.
All right, before we come to a close, or before I let go of you, what are some of the things that you do towards ensuring that the government is pushed enough to account or to perhaps address some of these matters? Because, I mean, before we know it, perhaps something else is going to happen, and I'm not a prophetess of doom. But like you rightfully say, this is not being addressed.
Yeah. No, you're right. And it's really, you're not being a prophet of doom. It's the sad reality in our country. These things keep happening every now and then, and the first thing that we do is to ensure information is out there. I think journalists and the media sector in Kenya have done a tremendous job in ensuring that, information is out there, public are informed of what is happening. One of the important things is to make sure that families that are searching for their loved ones are able to come forward, so that they can try and view these bodies, hopefully we identify some of them. Once we identify the bodies and we know who they are, then it becomes easier for us to trace, like where were they last seen and how could they have probably ended up where they did. So one of the key things that we're doing in terms of helping is ensuring there is public information so that people can come forward and help in terms of, giving more data on these people who have now been picked from this pit.
All right, Asena, I hope you understand that sometimes it's important that we get to hear so much, so because it's actively been on ground. Have you gone there yourself?
Yes.
You've been there?
I've been there, but right now it is a no-go zone.
Yes, it is a no-go zone.
The ground is kind of hostile.
Right. This hostility, what do the people of Mukuru say, even as we come to a close? What is their wish? What is this that they wish that the government could do different amidst all these fears?
The thing that is supposed to happen on the ground is to bring tents bring a tent of psychosocial support. There are people who've traveled from different areas to come and just see if their kin could be part of them. So it is good when a government puts a tent, a tent of psychosocial, a tent of registration to ensure that people come and register where they reported, who got lost, whatever could happen. And so, and at the same time, when those bodies come out of that particular...
As we round it up,
yes, when they come from that particular quarry, people want to see. They just want to see. What is so hard on just opening for people to just... You can organize for people to just pass, queue, and look at it as they go. And look, we cannot fight. Why should we take a tear gas where people are mourning?
Well, we perhaps would wish to know just how different the government would address this, because of course that evidently is a crime scene and you understand how this should be treated. But equally, as we have to close, secondly, in 30 seconds.
In 30 seconds, the new IG should not work from the office. He should come at the scene of the crime. He should come to unravel what exactly happened. There is need to cover that quarry before we feel it. Yes, that will prevent any other life from being lost there.
Well, it's just the beginning of this conversation. I'm sure my team will be unpacking and engaging most of the specialists and analysts in relation to that, as well as the government, even as we seek answers as to the same. Roslina Sena, community paralegal based in Embakasi South, Sub-County, Mukuru, Kwariuben. Thank you so much for speaking to us, as well as Hussein Khalid, the CEO of Vocal Africa, who's joining us virtually. Asante sana. Of course, we're looking forward to see you again on Saturday. But then again, keep it TV47 shortly.